The Cleveland Browns come off a monster victory Sunday against the Houston Texans, but national audience, all the eyes on them. Cleveland Browns, New York Jets. Thursday night, we switch from Texans to Jets. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on ELOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The OBR's Pete Smith in the house, your host, Jeff Lloyd, and I appreciate each and every one of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. If you are not part of the everyday crowd by now, well, get a new plan stand and make sure you subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. And of course, the show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And if you were thinking to get yourself into that building Thursday night, watch Cleveland Browns clinch another playoff spot, Gametime. Go ahead, check it out. As I said, the OBR's Pete Smith is here. We'll bring in Pete. Obviously, Tuesday we go from Houston. Obviously, the New York Jets coming up. But Pete, after what was I think that was just, it sounds simple, but fun. Browns came out firing on all cylinders. Obviously, Amari Cooper right out the gate, 53 yards. And then even still, they just went heat check after that. The long touchdown to Cooper, 70-something yards. David Njoku's wide open, and I think Joe was like, well, it's going so well. Let's see what else we got going. But that team to go in there, maybe shut it down a little bit early. Obviously, DTR's injury, what led to Joe going back in the game. Defensively, they were able to get some guys off their feet a little bit. But here is a team obviously going from a big victory Sunday, not the most ideal situation. Granted, you're the team that's going to at least have the, advantage of being home Thursday night. But, for the Browns, this fourth straight possible victory, this is, and we'll get to it in segment 2 because everybody that thinks this is a gimme and a layup, it's probably not, but we'll get to it. But Pete, if Cleveland wants to, make this statement and, obviously maybe number one seeds out, maybe still alive for the division here. But, I still would say, hey, just give me that opportunity at whoever wins that AFC South in the first game of the playoffs. But the Browns here setting up from something special on Sunday to what could be something even more special Thursday night.
Yeah, the Browns played their best game of the season in 2 phases of the game. You would like more time to sort of celebrate that game. It's
true.
They have their best game of the year, and then they have to play on Thursday. So you get to basically it's Tuesday or it's Monday, Christmas Day, Tuesday. Yeah, we got to move on. Look, the Browns did a lot of things right. They answered a lot of questions that have been lingering. Obviously, the Texans were injury depleted in a lot of ways, but you wanted to see Flacco play better. He had been sort of average the first 3 games. Obviously had some great moments, but it was a roller coaster with sort of keeping both teams in the game. And then I believe PFF has it as his best game since 2014. And Amari Cooper obviously sets the record. The defense goes and dominates on the road. Haven't seen that since they did that against Arizona. Zadarius Smith has his best game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing continued growth from players like JOK. You're seeing Alex Wright continue to come on. You're seeing Shelby Harris continue to be a bigger part of this team because they need those reps since they're missing guys like Mo Hurst and Obanya Okoronkwo. So there's a lot that you like about what you saw there, particularly as you are one. You're watching a whole lot of teams not look great right now, and you're sitting there talking yourself into going, why not us? But you are getting better at the right time in certain ways. So, it's one of those things where you sort of, you hate that you have to play on Thursday, but there is an element of, let the good times roll because we're hot. Let's keep it going.
Well, there is almost 2 advantages to this. If week 18 means something, you have the extra rest going in week 18. if turns out week 18 doesn't mean as much, you've got all this extra rest where the possibility of guys may not have to play against Cincinnati. You can pull a couple guys if you choose to. But look, none of it means a hill of beans unless you get your business done here Thursday night against the New York Jets. Again, there's lingering issues, and we'll get to that one here in segment 3 as well. But you get to this game here, and, again, 4th and 5th offensive tackle, 4th quarterback. All of a sudden, this team is once again one snap away from P.J. Walker being the quarterback. Maybe Juan Thornhill's coming back, so that safety group maybe gets a jolt here. Ogbenaya Okoronkwo's coming back to town, maybe getting himself prepped to week 18. Hopefully he doesn't have to play week 18. So just like a crazy, obviously, set of circumstances that this team has been through the entire season up until this point here, Pete. But, you get to it, and for me, and this is just one, and I don't know how or what exactly they can do. And I know a lot of people want to point the finger at the running backs. And if you want to look at their stat line and point to it, that's fine. But there's got to be some semblance, something that you can do running the football here, because it's late in the season. Granted, Thursday night looks like weather will be a factor. It'll be chilly, but not really as far as wind, precipitation, any of that stuff. But you'd like to have the ability to have some run game, Pete. Some sort of a semblance of a run game.
Yeah, look, Nick Chubb is not there, but I would
look. Nick Chubb would be struggling right now.
So that's
be honest.
Thing is I would venture to say that Nick Chubb would have a very hard time running behind these 2 tackles, and the tight ends aren't doing them any favors in a lot of the case. And you've got to beat up front. Obviously, Joe Bitonio is dealing with a knee that's been bothering him all year. Had the surgery.
Back's not 100% either. Yep.
Ethan Posick, coming off the stinger. Wyatt Teller's dealing with something now. You need the interior 3 to be good. They have been okay. They're obviously excelling in pass protection. But realistically, I look at this and go, you are hoping that, one, you're going to be able to sort of use that week and a half after this game to sort of get that stuff squared away as much as you can, if it can be done. And 2, in some ways, I think there are a lot of the time it's one guy that's missing a block. Like, there is a whole lot of that going on. But I do think by virtue of success of some of the passing game, there are opportunities there, but they're not capitalizing on them at all. But I don't think that's a running back problem. Like, Jerome Ford gets picked on. People complain about his vision or whatever. He can see the guy not blocking. He can see the guy who is not picked up, the guy who's in his face, the guy who's taking the line as soon as he gets the ball. He can see all those guys. Like, you look at what they have to do to score points, like the first touchdown of the game. Like, it's a cool concept and all that, but you have to do that stuff. Like, Kareem Hunt barely got in from the 1. It's just really difficult. It's just the nature of the beast. And maybe they get a little healthier. Maybe there are things they can, try to work and improve. But, like, there are reasons that some of these guys weren't on rosters or would not be on rosters if not for the Browns. And there's only so much you can do with that. So it's just a nightmare scenario. So we'll see if that can get better. The biggest thing that sort of stands out to me with, like, things they can do in addition to screen game, which I would, they're not rushing yards, but to me, they're an extension of the running game.
Of course,
is draws. And they've done a little bit of that with Pierre Strong Jr. The problem, he's so fast, he's electric, but man, the wind blows and he seems to fall down. Like, if he could just keep his feet on some of these, he would have scored already. But there are situations where he's one guy away and he just can't get past the one guy.
Exactly. It's great if you can run away from anybody, but it's also not so great if there is a turf monster at the 27-yard line that, proves to be your dismay and your ultimate takedowner. Browns got to figure something out in run game wise. So we're going to continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns, the OBR's Pete Smith in for the ride. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers Stay Hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. We continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. Appreciate everyone who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. If you're not part of the everyday crowd, you better check yourself and get it right. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show's always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Pete, and now this was always going to be a weird game here late in the season. Obviously, before the season started, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers, obviously 5 million different scenarios have played out since then. But I ain't going to lie to you, Pete. This game truly scares the living death out of me because this New York Jets team, they may be 6-9. They may be playing out the string. The defense is good. One of the advantages the Browns have had this year with playing all these different quarterbacks is you didn't necessarily know what you're getting. The Jets coaching staff has the backing that they will be here for 2024. So this is a team that comes in with literally nothing to lose.
Yeah, there's a scenario where you get a headline that basically says Browns win, there were no survivors. It's because both teams have good defenses and both teams have really bad offensive line situations. The Jets are worse, which is
yes, by far, but yes,
which is something to consider, that they are still worse than what the Browns have been dealing with. And both teams have had quarterback issues. Obviously, they are, at least right now, saying they're going to go ape with Trevor Siemian. So you look at that and you look at the Jets defense and the thing the Browns have been able to do, and they've been really creative using play action pass protection in a way that sort of allowed them to, double team ends and sort of trust the inside to take care of itself, to give space to Joe Flacco, while also freezing second level defenders, or Jalen Petrie in the case of the Houston Texans. That has been really effective. The problem you run into is, one, when teams blitz and they don't care, that puts you at some risk, which you saw a little bit with the Jaguars. And then the other part is that works great if you can sort of single out one or two guys. It's really problematic when you've got 3 and 4 guys. Obviously, the Browns have been able to torture teams with that, but that's what the Jets can do. They can put 4 guys on the line that can get after the quarterback. And when you have a guy like Quinnen Williams, who's in the conversation for one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and they have really good ends, now you can't really you're now relying on a back or a tight end or some max protection of some sort. They've used even David Bell and some of these receivers to help block, but you're still asking them to block edge rushers. That's a tall task, because if you get one thing wrong, suddenly Joe Flacco's on the ground. And combine that with the fact that the Jets have pretty good corners in Sauce Gardner and the other dude who's playing really well,
DJ Reed.
They're good. So it's not like you can just be like, oh, no problem, we'll just pick them apart. Like, they could put, you may want to run quick game, but if they're covered and you're just throwing it, which we've seen Joe Flacco do, now the ball's at risk, or he's forced to hold on to the ball longer, and now he's either got to throw it away, try to use his mobility, which, again, as we've talked about on here, he's more athletic than people think he is. He had elite defensive end agility. He's still got really good balance and movement, but it gives you very high volatility and potential for him to just get whacked. And obviously, look, as you said, one play from DTR, now you're back to PJ Walker. DTR would be fine. You'd rather have Flacco given everything he's been doing, but PJ Walker is sort of like a death sentence at this point. So that is a huge, huge risk for you. And you have no running game. You don't have a whole lot of options. So the Jets can basically be like, we know exactly what you're going to try to do. We don't care if you run the ball at us. We're just going to hit your quarterback as much as we can. And if we lose, we lose. But your quarterback's probably going to die in the process, or at least that's theoretically how they could approach this game. But over the course of the season, the one trend you can look at and see with the Jets is they hit the quarterback. And that was true of the Miami Dolphins, which you would have thought, granted, the Miami Dolphins offensive line is a mess, but if there's one team you would have thought could have sort of dealt with this, it's the Dolphins, because Tua does one thing really well. He gets the ball out. And even then, like 3 sacks and like 6 quarterback hits. So it's a very dicey situation. The Browns have to be smart with how they can do it, how they deal with these situations. Obviously, Amari Cooper and Sauce Gardner becomes likely matchup. Maybe they'll have him shade, maybe they won't. But you're going to need the likes of Elijah Moore and David Njoku and Cedric Tillman, some of these other guys to be able to make plays quickly and consistently to maintain drives down the field. Because, if it's high scoring because most likely because the defense is making it that way as opposed to the offense. So it's just a difficult thing to turn around and do. And in some ways it's freeing for the Jets that they have 4 days and they can just be like, at least on the defensive side of the ball, we're just going to go after your quarterback endlessly.
Well, and the thing for the Jets also is, look, I mean, you got 2 games left here. So, for a season that's going to go unfulfilled, you're trying to get some frustrations out. You know what I'm saying? So taking a quarterback down a lot, obviously for these guys, who thought they'd have an extended run here and obviously are not, that's one way to basically put, a couple of gems on the, crown, so to speak, here as they close this out. And, that would be one thing you're looking for here from Joe on the offensive side of the ball here is obviously as the verticality has picked up here and a lot of success going vertical down the field, success vertically down the field that we have not seen, from the Coach Stefanski offense now here deep in year 4. But now the progression is that should be where the coverage onus is. So is this where Elijah Moore should be able to have a monster day? Because obviously catch and run is something you're looking for. More of David Njoku, David Bell, Goodwin, whoever. But the Browns have to be smart, savvy with this, backside of the backfield. And, for Joe at 6'6" and, big, tall pocket thrower. And I will agree, and you saw the mobility on action Sunday. I do believe for Joe, some of it also is I got here late. So Joe is a fresh guy here in December. Hasn't taken as much hits as many other quarterbacks have taken here. So, at his prime, physical well-being here right now. But, one bad game against the New York Jets could certainly change all that. And Joe could take more hits than he's probably taken in the 4 games up until this point. Do not sleep on this game. Do not think the New York Jets are going to roll over. And if it involves tossing the kitchen sink, the Jets would be absolutely foolish to not do so. We're going to continue on here. Your latest Locked On Browns, the OBRs, Pete Smith is in the house. Your host, Jeff Lloyd. Segment 3 coming your way. I've talked before about Gametime. Love Gametime. If you're trying to get in the game Thursday night, check out the Gametime app. For me, it was great. Obviously, I have kids. They love live music. Christmas concert tickets is always a big way to go. You shouldn't have to worry when you're buying tickets for your next big event. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They got last-minute tickets. They've got flash deals. They've got zone deals. You get a view from your seat to make sure you're not the rube that got an obstructed seat. Lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, and something I haven't seen with a lot of apps, job loss protection. All in prices, show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. You buy tickets in seconds. 2 taps, you are in. Find exclusive flash deals and sponsor deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONFL for $20 off your first purchase. Jeff Lloyd, your host here, the OBR's Pete Smith. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Appreciate each and every one of you who makes Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. The everyday crowd, you don't need to know somebody. You don't need an in. Subscribe to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. You are in. Show is always available always free, wherever you get your podcasts. Pete, because there hasn't been enough turmoil, craziness, change for this Cleveland Browns team this year. Now, it's official. We're going to have a new kicker Thursday night. It's looking most likely there's going to be a new punter Thursday night. We're talking about a Jets team that's going to come in here and probably try and find a lot of ways to be aggressive, which would be challenging a new punter. Don't have a lot of week to work. Long snapper, punter exchange, long snapper, holder exchange. This is just yet another thing here. And, there's only so much adversity you can deal with, but the Cleveland Browns just continue to find new ways to have to reinvent themselves on the fly.
Yeah, I mean, the Dustin Hopkins thing is very concerning. When they say week to week, I think the Browns are basically have their fingers crossed that he's going to be ready for the playoffs. I don't think they're looking and going, hey, hopefully he's back by week 18. So the Jim Brown points record gone.
Sad.
Because if he just was healthy for that game, he would have had it.
Mm-hmm.
But and then, you have the reality of, is this kicker to be able to kick? And then, is Dustin Hopkins has been all hot all year. Is he all of a sudden going to be able to maintain it? And even if he's, let's say he's 80%, does that also mean most likely 80% of his range? There's a whole bunch
all of a sudden he's a 45 and in guy. Yeah. Exactly.
The punter thing is, one, I don't think it's going to last as long. I think this dude will punt this week, but I think Bojorquez will be back for the finale. However, this is Bubba Ventrone's punter from last year with the Colts. He kicked there all that whole season. Doesn't have the same leg as Bojorquez, so that flip the field ability is not there. In the case of this punter, the biggest thing is that Matt Hack, I assume it's Hack, maybe it's Hawk.
Well, let me tell you something. If your last name is Hack, you try to tell people that your last name is Hawk. The way it's spelled, your last name is Hack, kid. He
doesn't have a big leg, but has been reasonably good about pinning guys inside the 20. So if you have an advantage with field position, he's a guy who's going to help you keep it. He's not going to, I think 40% of his punts last year were inside the 20, which is, I would think, pretty good. But that would at least allow you to sort of keep teams deep in their own end. That part is important. Again, that shouldn't be as big of a deal to me as the kicking situation. But along with that, he's also your holder for the new kicker, so that's a different dynamic. Again, I don't think that's going to be a huge deal. But my number one concern out of this is Dustin Hopkins.
Yeah, and it's tough to see, obviously, the fact that, he would have broken that record. And of course, Joe, with the interceptions, some of that was tied to the fact that obviously you did not have the kicker on Sunday, which was a miraculous day, obviously, between Joe and Amari, just a crazy, crazy day. And Pete, if you're ready for this, there's no numbers for these guys. They had to find a number for Joe Flacco. So we're talking your kicker could be rocking like 47. Actually, he's not gonna be wearing 47. It could be like 52. Your punter could be rocking like 79 or whatever. I mean, week 17. Let's get nuts.
Yeah, I want the weirder the better. Get the bizarre numbers that nobody wants and throw them on there. You may as well stand out at this point. If nothing else, the punter, Matt Hawk, has been around 6 years in the NFL. He's sort of auditioning for a job, so stand up as much as possible. Let's, if it's 40, 46 out there and 70 like 8 or something, that'd be Conklin, but some weird ass number that just sort of really stands out and looks like the big fat college kicker that you see nowadays, big enough to warrant double digits as opposed to most kickers. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. The Browns have gone through so many players at this point that they have run out of numbers. Who knows? Maybe they'll have to unretire Jim Brown and put one of these guys in 32.
Well, I mean, it gives me a thought process of the Seinfeld episode where George is taking his late fiance's parents out to the country. And, you want to get nuts? let's get nuts. And for Bubba Ventrone, as smoothly as it had gone for him all season, can now kind of look at Jim Schwartz, can certainly look at Coach Stefanski and Alex Van Pelt and say, oh, this is what you guys have been dealing with all year. I get it now. Couldn't imagine finding out on Sunday when you play Thursday night that all of a sudden you're going to be in the market for a new punter. Definitely a new kicker, most likely a new punter. Thursday night football, with the opportunity, of course, to try to solidify yourself to the number 5 seed, and at worst, try to get yourself lined up with that AFC South winner. He is Pete Smith. Obviously, you can check all the work out now over at the OBR. Pete and Bree still the Browns Bite podcast. Incredible show. Make sure you check that out. Make sure you check out all of Pete's written content over at the OBR, and obviously everybody over there. Pete and the crew over there do a fantastic job week in, week out, day in, day out, providing you guys with some of the best Cleveland Browns content you can get your hands on. Myself, Jeff Lloyd, been here 7 years. Hope to be here another 7, the good Lord willing. It's been a really, really exciting season up to this point. Obviously, this time of year, a little bit more reflection. Certainly thankful for all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. Everybody who is part of the everyday crowd, appreciate you greatly. For those of your friends who are not, pick up their phone, open up their YouTube app, and do the right thing for them. Subscribe to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Show is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on ELOB. Let's go, Browns.